I did a little bit of research, like seeing how other people did it. And I think I came up with a really good way to start.
Okay.
This is how it goes. This is the Lex Friedman podcast, and this is our conversation about Fiona Apple.
And then
How
we
is
need
that?
like, well, you need to play some acoustic guitar music now because he
Okay,
has that.
like flamenco. Yeah,
We are gathered here today to discuss Fiona Apple and her song Criminal, live in LA in September 1997. I'm assuming that you did a lot of research about when and where, what coordinates this occurred at, and what the weather was on the day of this performance. So do you want to give us like a fact dump before we begin?
That's right. Well, I would. There's a difference between like to and will, because as much as I would like to, I looked into this and I don't actually know. Because the title just says live in LA 1997, which could mean either Los Angeles or Louisiana or who knows what other place. So you might be thinking, oh, well, just like look it up and you'll see, you'll find an event. Well, unfortunately, for us, for this thing, but not for her, she performed in Los Angeles and Louisiana in 1997. So I have no idea. Oh yeah, September.
Because it says September.
That's a good point.
So that should narrow it
Yeah,
down.
that's right. Did I miss
You
the
failed.
September part? See, I'm even failing in my failing. Like, this is great. This is so good. I
say that given that I didn't look into it at all and I just depended on you to do it. So you didn't really fail so much as I'm lazy.
Yeah, so I'll have to go back and double check that. I don't know why. Yeah, that's one of those, that's a perfect type of mistake for me. But I do have 3 performances that I found that it could be any of these 3.
Okay.
Well, maybe not, given your genius tier explanation just now. It's like it was a pretty big year for her. I can say that. Playing, lots of shows, played in Europe. She was opening for the Counting Crows and played on Letterman and Conan O'Brien. And she played at the Lilith Fair. So if anyone knows that reference, leave that in the comments. That'll be fun.
That's where I smoked a blunt with her, so we should definitely talk about that.
Oh yeah, yeah, I definitely want to hear about that. So that's really all I can say about the performance. It's as you'll see in the video, another difficulty is that the camera is like on her the entire time, basically, until like maybe the last minute or so. So you can't even really get any sense of like the venue or what was really going on. Whatever. It's better. Less history, more mystery.
Well, thank you for that. That was helpful. So I guess I want to say a little bit about my personal connection to Fiona, since, that's how I started the last video. We were brainstorming about what artists potentially to do, and she came up because she's one of the most influential artists for me personally. She was signed around the same time as me. She was on Epic and I was on Columbia. And I remember when her record came out, it was just very influential. I always liked male artists more. I liked listening to them and I tried to sing like them, and there were only a few female artists that I really connected to, and she was huge for me. She was like one of maybe 2 artists that I really, really loved, and I definitely spent a lot of time trying to sing like her and learning every riff that she ever sang and really trying to figure out how to sing with the same timbre and presence. I think she has a really beautiful, rich, well-balanced voice and just like very tasteful. And I love her lyrics. And as you know, I'm a lyrics girl. That's a thing that I always listen to first. And I just think she's incredibly intelligent. And her lyrics are like poetry. So she was very influential for me. And this song is my number 1 all-time go-to karaoke number. This is what I always sing at karaoke. So I just really, really love everything about her music. And she influenced me in a lot of other ways that I'll maybe talk a little bit about later. she definitely influenced my eating disorder. So that's probably more one of the negative ways. But she was just around when I was, getting started in the music industry. And her keyboard player, Joe Simon, produced my second record, Coma, which I believe is your favorite record of mine.
That's possible.
Yeah, and so he would always, tell me stories about her. And then I met her, I think, the first time at Tramps, which is a now defunct club in New York City, where I met a lot of my heroes. It was one of those places that was like just big enough to have really big acts come through, but still very small and intimate. I met her a few times. I don't remember exactly where, but then the last time that I saw her was at Lilith Fair, and she remembered me, and she was like, "Oh, Michal, it's so nice to see you." So that was really cool that she like remembered my name. And then she brought me backstage, and she like opened this little bag, and I saw these pills in there, and she had weed, and we like smoked a joint together. And that was like the highlight of my teenage existence. And, she was always just like very gracious in the very limited interactions that I had with her. And I just have a tremendous amount of respect for her. And she always, just seems like an iconoclast and does her own thing. I really respect in a way that she hasn't settled down and had a family, because that's kind of like the well-trodden path. And that she's been very successful, but still managed to release music when she's ready to release music. She doesn't release an album every 2 years. She releases an album every 7 or 10 years. And it's really on her own time. And she says what she wants to say. And it seems like a really pure artistic vision. And she doesn't shy away from doing things that are maybe more avant-garde. So I really respect all of that. And I also feel like she's kind of like one of the first artists that like made crazy cool, Like now it's like very trendy to like, talk about mental health and like try to destigmatize mental health. But she really was like one of the first people that I saw that made being on that line between genius and madness really cool. Like she always seemed like she was like on the verge of losing it, but like she made it look cool and sexy. Those are just some of the things that come to mind when I think about her. And I just think she's really genuinely a genius and an amazing, influential artist who I think will stand the test of time.
Yeah, no, I agree with pretty much all that. Unlike you, I have no connection to her. Like, I probably have as much connection to her as, probably anyone did, hearing this song or a few of the other songs that came out at that time when she, was first very popular. And, I always liked it. I always thought it was really good. But other than that, I just sort of thought, oh, yeah, that's cool. I like that. That's good. Yeah, but as far as the things you were saying about like her, well, certainly like the musical ability and lyrical poetry stuff, definitely. I'm like combining in my mind. I'm thinking about what you said about her, like the mental health stuff and the compositions and the lyrics. And what I would go, one step further and say what's so great about it is that she might have had, whatever mental stuff going on, but was also an extremely good artist. It wasn't merely that she was like, whatever, some pop style star that also had some stuff going on. And then, she's essentially trading on any number of things that are not amazing compositions or, great poetry, with lyrics and everything.
Oh, like that. Yeah. The mental illness coupled with not amazing talent would not have been as cool.
Yeah. It's not as good a combination.
The talent was the primary thing.
Yeah. I think that's, I have a feeling that that's like what a lot of people are, like probably responding to when they, like now, when they're seeing a lot of this stuff go on, because, they hear about, celebrities or whatever, and like something about their personal life, but I don't know if they probably don't feel like there's a lot of substance there either. And then like that conflict is what I think probably is getting to a lot of people. If more people, I guess what I'm advocating for is people that are really, really good artists and that are also insane, but not not one or the other. Because,
and I think also
sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
No, that's kind of it. Because I think I think that's essentially what people, like the audience, sort of expects. You know, I don't know if that's like a fundamental thing or something that just sort of has existed for the past, you know, whatever, 100 years or something. But like, there is like, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is that like when someone's kind of nuts, it's nice to have some part of them where you go, well, at least they're really good at this, you know?
Yeah.
As opposed to just nuts with nothing, you know?
Yeah, and also I think that like, you know, so many things get labeled trauma now, and she genuinely had trauma in her life, you know, like she was raped at a very young age. I think she has a reason to be a little bit crazy, you know? And I think part of the beauty of her art is that she was able to process that in a way that, you know, created something beautiful out of that pain or whatever. But when you see people that are like just suffering from ennui for like no apparent reason, which, you know, I kind of fall into that category, but like it's less endearing because you know that it's not like based in anything real, you know?
Yeah, but also, I mean, you know, people can feel a certain way even if there wasn't a specific trauma. But I mean, like the having the art that is like tremendous is a nice counterbalance, I guess. Yes. Funny enough, like not to like contradict what you're saying, because I mean, I think it's certainly true, despite what I'm about to say. I read some interview with her where someone brought that up and asked if that like made its way into any of her songs. I think this was like early on. And her response was no. She said, it's such like a boring, I'm paraphrasing here. I'll try to find the original quote. She said like, it's such a boring trauma. And like it's just in me and whatever. But none of her songs on the album are directly about that or anything. Now, whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. But I thought that was a clever response. Of course, you know, it's an interview that's going to be public. Maybe she wanted to say that to be transgressive or something. I don't know. But
yeah, but I mean, maybe none of her songs directly addressed it, but that's still like in her, you know?
Sure, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you know, this song, and I think Sleep to Dream also, she said came directly out of like a breakup, you know, and like stuff that she said on the phone to the person as she was like fighting with them and like breaking up with them, you know. And so I think you can definitely like feel how earnest and, you know, real she is in her lyrics too. So I think that that's something that's really cool about the way that she writes. Also, just before we jump in, I just want to get I guess I should get like my eating disorder story out of the way because it'll be less relevant as we're going through the song itself. But just like kind of like a funny, not funny story is that, you know, I was anorexic for a long time. And one of the like thinspo things for me was like watching her videos because she has those, the video for this song, the music video for this song, and also Sleep to Dream is like basically like a fashion shoot, you know, and this was like, at the time when like heroin chic was cool and everybody was like 80 pounds and looked like they were dying, you know, and like she was like this very like precocious kind of like Lolita figure and was like stripping down to her underwear and like really, really skinny. And I remember like watching those videos over and over again, like to like stop myself from eating or like whatever, you know? So yeah, she definitely was very influential in the way that I formed my ideas about like early, like, female beauty and like sexuality, you know? So,
yeah. Well, I mean,
like
it's like
too.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where on one hand you want to go, the artist gets to do what they want, but on the other hand, when people, you know, maybe like on the other side of that argument, kind of look at it and go, it's sort of dangerous to put these images out into the world. Yeah. They do have a point, you know. There is something of a point. I hate to
kind of like put that, you know, it's not obviously not her fault.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And I also
you would have
think,
found someone.
Yeah, exactly. I would have found someone, and like I was like ripe for the influence, you know. Yeah. And you know, I think she's put a lot of positive energy out into the world too. Like I know that she's been vegan forever, and she seems like a really compassionate human being, you know. So whatever negativity has maybe like filtered off of those videos, I'm sure has been counterbalanced by what a good soul she has.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, and that's everything. I mean, you know, it's always some good and some bad and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I also read about that video for the song that she hated it, precisely because it was like this, like
very sexualized.
Yeah, and like it didn't really represent the song, didn't represent kind of anything. It was just like
her. Yeah. it kind of does represent the song though. You know what I mean? Like if you actually like listen to the lyrics, it's very like it's very Lolita, and there's like these certain like very sexualized tropes in it, you know, like I'm a bad girl, you know, like punish me daddy, basically. I mean, it is like kind of like very sexualized kind of.
Right, but I mean,
it's
like
very,
I think
it's very smart and clever, but there is kind of like a certain cliche to it.
I would imagine, like, if I mean, of course, I have no way to know this, but like, I could imagine her criticism being, they took, I think it was Mark Romanek, I think, or maybe someone else. I think it was him, or it's someone like that, who did the video. Like, I could imagine her saying, he basically, like, exactly, he took like a line like that and made a video out of it instead of the song in its totality, you know, and, you know, do something with that. But, and then, you know, the reason I sort of bring it up is, you know, with any of these things, especially early in the career of one of these musicians, is you wonder how much, like how conflicted they feel about something like that, right? Because you do a video like this for a song that you really like. You don't have a problem with the song. You put it on the record, although that's another whole thing. Maybe sometimes that doesn't even happen. You know, someone forces you to put a certain song on that you don't want. But in this case, I mean, especially in her case, she likes all the songs. She wrote it. But visually, this thing doesn't represent her. She doesn't like it, or at least so she says. And then you attain an extreme amount of success, largely because MTV exists, this video exists, it gets played 1 million times, people like watching it for, you know, 5 different reasons. And you kind of wonder, like, going forward, does she think, like, is she the type of person who thinks, that kind of sucks, but here I am, I have this career that as a result I can, you know, make more music and espouse veganism and all that stuff? Or does she ever feel like it's all like fruit of a poison tree kind of thing, you know? I don't know if that's the case with her. I'm just throwing that out there. I have no idea. But like, I do always sort of like think about that when stuff like that happens. And like what people kind of do in their mind with that. I'm sure it changes over their career and whatever, but you also kind of like, you also imagine like these artists that are, you know, however many decades into their career, and they still have to play, you know, XYZ hit that they don't necessarily love, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So
it makes me think of also, I think it was the Grammys, when, you know, she gave that speech where she's like, "This is all bullshit. Go with yourself." You know, you remember that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely think she probably chafed against the, you know, the big label and what they wanted her to do, and the image that they wanted her to present, and how fake it felt compared to how she wanted to present herself. But yeah.
Hey, let's watch this song now.
Yeah, let's get into it. So this is kind of like, I think, the perfect embodiment of, I would say she was like the first BPD art hoe, like that Redsteer talks about. You know what I mean? It's like, she's kind of like jerking around and like kind of spastic, and like looks like she doesn't want to be there, and like covering her face, and she's holding this sweatshirt, and her hair is in her face, you know? So it's almost like it almost looks like she's like, has like Tourette's or something, you know what I mean? Until she goes up to the mic to sing. But it's like this whole aura of like, what the fuck is going on, you know? That's like really interesting, but also it feels like something is like off with her, and that's like what's interesting, you know?
Yeah. 2 things. One, this is like a good opportunity for people like that are watching this now, whether they've seen it before or not, to sort of always do this thing in your mind where you're watching it now in the current culture, but then also put your mind back, you know, whatever, 20 something years to this, because, you know, seeing that might not have felt to you or anyone in the audience the same way then as it does now.
Sure.
I don't know what that change is, and I mean, I know people know this already, but like, it's always very you always have to like keep that in the front of your mind before you start like judging it. I mean, you definitely should judge it. Everyone should judge everything all the time. But that's a different conversation. But like the way that you judge it should be, you know, in that kind of like frame of that kind of stuff. The other thing is, if you think that's hilarious, you should check out other performances of this song, like when she was on, I think it was on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. I think it's that one. When she was
under the piano.
She starts under the piano.
Yeah.
She's like hugging one of the legs of the piano. And then she's like, for the entire beginning of the song until the song starts. And then she like emerges from it. And then there's other performances where she like hides under the piano. Like at the end of the song, I think, like, you know, when it's like the sort of instrumental part, she just like hides under the piano. Which again, like as I'm watching it, I feel like it's like 70% real, 30% she knows what she's doing, like that kind of thing.
Tell me to deny it. I've done wrong and I want to suffer from my sins. I've come to you because I need guidance to be true, and I just don't know where I can begin. Ooh, what I need is a good defense, 'cause I'm feeling like a criminal.
All right, so a couple things that I notice is she has that like very strong vibrato that like, you know, it's almost like bleedy a little bit. And then she also like really has her resonance low, you know, so it's like, what I need is a good defense. So it kind of feels lower than it is, you know, like if you place your resonance higher, what I need, it sounds higher, you know? So she's like really coming from below, which is very bluesy to me. I also really like the way that she kind of plays with the rhythm where she's like on the offbeat, you know? Because I'm feeling like a criminal. Like she'll be like on the offbeat against the instrumentation. Very cool. I also noticed like just her physicality. She has those like almost like belly dancing kind of like sinuous movements, you know? Which I find very cool. As you know, I also am a big fan of belly dancing and did some of that. So I definitely like her dancing in between singing as well.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. The I wasn't able to totally figure it out. Sorry, Rick Beato. That like the whether she's like doing like sort of like a triplet thing, like her singing is like this triplet over the more like straight rhythm underneath, or if it's like a polyrhythm kind of like 3 against 4 kind of thing. I don't know. I wasn't able to exactly work out. I mean, I guess technically you could probably analyze it a couple different ways, but yeah, no, I love that. There are a few versions of this song that live that we could have talked about. This one I really, really like because, shocker, the guitars are so loud in the mix, and you get to hear so much cool stuff that the guitar player is doing. I'm pretty sure it's Michael Lockwood, who he's a kind of an interesting guy, played with a bunch of different artists, Amy Mann and Carly Simon and Salt and Peppa. By the way, Salt and Peppa, it's not only like Salt N with the letter N, Peppa, but Peppa is P-E-P-A. I just thought that's great. Yeah, no, anyway, great guitar player. And he's doing so much good stuff. Like he's not just playing the chords, or even just outlining the chords. He's actually playing a lot of what the organ and piano is playing on the record, because if you listen to the record, there isn't that much guitar until sort of towards the end, and it has its like own part, but he's kind of like covering a lot of that other material. But there is a piano player and there is like a synth player on stage.
Mellotron is really cool on this.
Yeah,
it's like Mellotron flutes or something.
Yeah, exactly. And he's playing some of those parts, and it sounds so good. Like he has a really, really good like edge of breakup style tone. And he totally knows what he's doing. I mean, it's one of these things where it's deceptively simple, but if you were like a beginning guitar player trying to learn this song, you'd probably spend a few years. Like not a few years, like you'd find out what the chords are and you'd go, okay, I know the song, great. And then if you really listened like to a version like this and you heard all the things he was doing, you'd go, oh, that's a professional guitar player. Then you'd be like, oh, there's a whole nother world of stuff that I have to learn to figure out how to do all of this. And it's, really tasteful and cool effects and all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's just like a really interesting combination too of like blues and rock. It's,
oh yeah,
and yeah, the guitars are like very like dirty and grimy sounding, which is like very sexy.
Yeah.
Heaven help me for the way I am. Save me from these evil deeds before I get them done. I know tomorrow brings the consequence at hand, but I keep living this day like the next will never come. Help me, but don't tell me to the lie. Yeah, I gotta cleanse myself of all these lies till I'm good enough for him. I got a lot to lose and I'm getting high, so I'm begging you before it ends, just tell me where to begin. What I need is a good defense, 'cause I'm feeling like a criminal, and I need to be redeemed to the one I'm sinned against, because he's all I ever knew of a boy.
So the second verse is so good because she sings it in such a relaxed way. It's not overly relaxed. It's not barely relaxed, and you couldn't really tell. It's just so perfect. And like the way that I describe that type of performance in my head, like whether it's a vocalist or a guitar player or whatever, is it's the type of performance that only the original artist could do. Anyone else that would do it would almost sound like they're trying to sound like the original artist. And I know, whatever, you can't, that's just the way I hear it in my head. You couldn't prove it or whatever. But like, it's so, every time I listen to it, I think how great it is in the execution of every little nuance of relaxedness. It's like, it's so perfectly relaxed. You couldn't, you'd have to be that relaxed to do it, And I don't know if anyone other than the original artist could do that.
She's fully comfortable. Yeah. I like the way that she slips in and out of like just speaking, and like she'll like speak a line and then she'll throw her voice, and it doesn't seem like she really cares about like pitch specifically. Like when she does that whoa at the end, it kind of like is the slide, but she isn't like aiming for any particular note.
Yeah. Yeah, and it goes along with that, the whole bluesy vibe of the song. Also, what you were saying before, I forgot I was going to mention. Yeah, the kind of deep voice kind of thing, I think that's always great when a female singer can not only do that, period, but like execute it in a song that's a style like this. And then, of course, the fact that it's her composition is so great. The other thing I was thinking about with this second verse and being so relaxed is I also feel like there's the relaxedness is... it matches the lyric very well. The rest of the song is basically all the other verses, and the chorus is like lamenting the fact that she or whoever else, I can say something about that in a minute, has done this bad thing, and essentially like pointing it out. But this verse, like all the other verses are apologizing basically for the past. But this verse is like talking about the future. It's like saying, I could actually be better. I could not do something bad. I know that this is not good, whatever. And I love that, I'm not saying she was thinking about this consciously, but it feels like it makes so much sense that this verse is so much, performed so much in such a more relaxed way than the others. And I love that, when I was going back to think about it, that observation like presented itself as I was thinking about it. So maybe I'm wrong, but I just I
think this verse is like a good this would be a good discussion of like whether you believe in fate or like predetermination or free will,
Oh yeah well, actually wait, before you say that, I'm realizing now I'm confusing myself because I'm looking at my notes. Everything I just said is backwards, so
well, no,
this is the verse.
No, it is.
This is the verse where she's being like a kind of a devilish kind of whatever.
Well, it is kind of talking about like something that hasn't happened yet, because it's like save me from what I'm going to do bad. But I know you kind of feel like she's going to do it no matter what. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. This second voice is basically like her being this like kind of like you know, if the song is like devil and angel on your shoulder, the second verse is the devil on her shoulder, you know, saying like, I can, you know, I can do this and I can do this and I could, you know, anyway. So I should probably just put the lyrics in front of me. But
I kind of see this song as like, she's like, I'm naughty, you need to punish me, basically. You know what I mean? She's being bad, but she likes it and she wants to be punished, but like not really punished. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what it feels like to me, but I could be completely reading it wrong.
Yeah, I have a feeling my read on the lyrics are maybe possibly too literal. I mean, they seem like they're supposed to be taken literally, but yeah, I think, yeah, my sense is just that you know, she's saying, you know, I'm sorry, basically. But I don't know, maybe that says more about me or something. I don't know. One thing I did think, since we're talking about the lyrics, is, could you possibly do a read on, like, well, what you said before probably undoes what I'm about to say, but could you do a read on this where it's actually not from her perspective, it's from someone else's perspective, and she's the subject, meaning she was the one who someone cheated on her. Someone else cheated on her, and this whole song is not her being the person doing the cheating. She's the victim, but she's writing it from the perspective of the person who like wronged her, and essentially like giving them like trying to understand their position, or at least describe this person, like what she thinks this person, what's going on in this person's head. That's probably just me trying to be really clever. But I thought it's kind of like if you go back and, I mean, look, what does any of this matter? I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but you can listen to it that way, and it's kind of fun.
But I mean, it's very gendered too, you know? Like,
yeah, well, she could do that. She could flip those around just to be, you know, coded or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
Sure.
Anyway, I just
you could read it that way.
That is all.
If you want to be extra clever.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the permission to read that way.
Let me know the way before there's hell to pay. Give me room to lay the law and let me go. I gotta make a play to make my love stay. Going what an angel say, the devil wants to know.
You really hear that, like, her vibrato, that really wide vibrato here, right? That, what would an end, da, 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 right? And then she gets, like, that grit on her voice, which is really cool. And then I really like the way that she phrases that, what would an angel say, the devil wants to know? And she has that really nice sustain, da, that slide, the portamento at the end. Very, very cool vocal stuff. And I just love, like, the passion in the delivery, you know, it really feels like it's like on the edge of breaking, and it has that like dangerous element to it that's very exciting.
Yeah. It's I'm thinking now as you're saying that stuff, it seems like a really great modern blues song, you know, like modern even for now, but like for then, you know, it's like, It's a really good example of pushing that genre forward a little bit, you know. It's like it has all those qualities, like you hear the inspiration, you know, from, you know, whatever Ella Fitzgerald and all those you know, other singers of the time, but it's not that, you know. It's like it's its own kind of like darker, feel.
It kind of has like a little bit of Janis Joplin in it, or like I mean, the only other person that I would maybe compare her to is like Amy Winehouse as well, you know, like that kind of like really like dark kind of. But she was much more, you know, retro-y, bluesy even than Fiona.
Yeah. And the rest of the song in general, we can talk about in a minute, is great. But again, just with this live performance, it's just a cool live band, you know. There's no tracks that, you know, there's you know, they're not playing along to anything. It's just a great live band. All the players are clearly, you know, very good. They're playing great parts. You know, they're reproducing the album, you know, faithfully. You know, not in a way that, you know, sounds like it's a track, but like the way you're supposed to. You learn the song, then you play it live, and it's great. It's a great live performance.
Yeah, agreed.
What I need is a good band, 'cause I'm feeling criminal. And I need to be redeemed to the one I've sinned against, because he's all I ever knew of the law. What I need is a good defense, 'cause I'm feeling like a criminal. And I need to be redeemed to the one I've sinned against, because he's all I ever knew of the law.
So I really like how her high range, she never sings with like too much intensity, you know, like that. It's like very light and pretty. She doesn't really try to like have this like insanely strong head voice. Like she really plays to her strength. She has that like really low, strong chest voice, you know? Yeah, it's like very, very strong and very low. And then when she flips into her head voice, it's like very, very light and pretty and airy. So I always appreciate that she doesn't like try to sing really strong high when that's not where her tessitura is. You know what I mean? She like plays to her strengths, and then she keeps that that high voice is just like a little garnish in a way.
Yeah, well, I think this goes along with what we were talking about before. Stuff that only the original artist could do. You know, like she knows, like you said, it's like garnish. It's like this like little extra like sprinkles of notes at the top. You know, it starts on like the ninth. And they just sound like a little, like, you know, on guitar, like you're playing the high strings. These are just like very, you know, pretty notes. And yeah, it follows that you wouldn't sing those very strongly. And of course she knows that. I mean, she's the one who wrote the song, and it's perfect. It's great.
Yeah, and I also really like the riffs that she sings. You know, she doesn't sing all of the notes, and she's very tasteful. And she also like does this really nice stepwise progression when she sings, where she really like lands on each note, and like there's just like a certain way that she sings where she's almost like going up a staircase. You know what I mean? Like you really feel like when she's like ascending, she lands on each note with a lot of authority. So it's not like this like mushy kind of undefined riff. It has like a very clear structure to it, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, it's so wow, man, that's hilarious you say that, because like one of the things I was thinking about when I was like trying to describe her style just like to myself to try to like understand you know, some of the things that I would say is that she, like, this song demonstrates how great she is at writing a really good groovy, you know, literally having groove, jazz bluesy kind of pop sounding song with, you know, great bass line and, you know, clearly something that is going to catch people's ear. But she's also, it's, by the way, that's probably why this song was so popular, because it was, you know, it has those elements that people just, you know, everyone just loves. But at the same time, she seems to be really good at also making songs that sounds like a piano falling down the stairs, you know? That was literally the words that I put together. Like there's this, you know, the song Not About Love, which is on Extraordinary Machine. Like if you listen to that, it's just like so angular and weird and like, what's going on? But you listen to it and you go, yeah, that's a song. Like that works. It's still like competently done. I mean, and she has a bunch of those.
Yeah.
And
She's
it's so,
definitely
it's
pushed the
great to
boundaries,
see that contrast.
especially recently, you know, like I feel like she's going like farther and farther out into her own orbit, you know, and that's great because I think the success of this album really cemented her as an artist, and now she has the freedom to do that, you know, and to keep experimenting and going fully into her like weird Fiona-ness, which is really cool, and I'm glad that she is able to do that.
Here's a hot take: is she kind of like a female Tom Waits?
I don't really know. I don't know Tom Waits well enough to say.
Okay, then I'm going to say yes. Then she is. Thank you for the confirmation. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of reminding me of like a female Tom Waits. Not that, you know, whatever. Like,
I mean, I would like
to make a distinction
more,
somewhere,
and maybe
but,
this is just the association in my brain because of like the time that I was exposed to them, but I liken her to more to like a Jeff Buckley, you know what I mean? Where like he was always experimenting, and you could hear how many musical influences he had in his lexicon, and he did a lot of like weird stuff, you know, and then he had the stuff that was like more commercial, that was more just like really well structured and smart, and was able to like tap into the zeitgeist or whatever at that moment. But you know, he was always kind of like more avant-garde and had so much more in him.
I would agree with that too. Yeah.
And also just like a really unique voice in terms of singing. You know, I think that she was kind of the originator of a style of singing, and there were a lot of imitators. So you definitely hear the piano falling down the stairs in the way that the piano is being played, right? There's a lot of like very percussive things and like chords that have a lot of notes in them that aren't necessarily in that chord, you know? And then I love the like snake charmer riff on the guitar, you know? A lot of cool stuff going on instrumentally. And then I love the overlay of her just like dancing and having such abandon. You definitely just get the sense that it's like controlled chaos. And she really embodies that. And then at the end, when it like zooms in on her face and she like kind of half smiles, but then like immediately the smile like flees from her face, it kind of reminds me of like the HIV Aladdin, you know, where it's like, am I happy? Am I sad? I don't know. What's going on? You know, it's like all of the emotions. It's like, yeah, she really like embodies all of the emotions.
Yeah, so there's a lot of versions of this floating around on YouTube. There's the Tonight Show version and Letterman and a few others. Also, a really good performance on Howard Stern's radio show. You know, when they would record it, you know, the video and everything. And there's always, what I noticed, there's always a moment in each of them where she smiles, kind of like in this very innocent, happy way, where she's kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm here. Like, this is so cool. Like I'm performing, like in this one, like I'm performing for some audience of many, you know, however many, 100,000 people, whatever. Or like I'm on Howard Stern. Isn't that weird? Isn't that cool? You know, like you can see her, like she glances up. Like there's a few of these moments in that performance. And you know, even like with the Tonight Show one where she's like under the piano, like there are these moments where you see this like glimmer come through of like sort of like an innocence. And which is such a cool contrast between, you know, how heavy and dark everything is. It's like, you know, there's like a real person in there, you know, it's not like some like spirit has overcome her or something. It's like she's, you know, she's a person, she's performing, you know, but so you get both, you know. And it's, I don't know if there's as much of that later, you know. I didn't watch a ton of more recent videos. She seems a little bit more dour in those, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it was just like a period of time that I happened to come across. But in all the ones from this time period, there's always these little moments where you see that like sneak through, and it's always really cool to see. Yeah.
Well, she's definitely she's like a tornado, you know, and she's really compelling and really magnetic. And there's something that's really magical about her where you just like can't take your eyes away from her. You have to be born with it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's something that's really rare. And I just think that she's like so interesting. And I think part of that is her intellect. And she does seem like she's like a very intense person, you know? And when she like unleashes that on the stage, it's really like you can't look away. You don't know what's gonna happen. And it almost feels like you're witnessing somebody in this like very vulnerable state where they're just like overcome with emotion, and it's really, really entertaining and cool.
Yeah, and I think, you know, now that you say that, it maybe this like kind of like full circles all of this. We started talking about the kind of like person who kind of like is nutty but is not talented, and the person who's like maybe very talented but not nutty at all, and like how it's kind of good to have the combination. I think she's probably like a really great example of what most people are thinking about when they go like, music used to be better, you know? Like, I don't know if that's actually true, but she's like this like undeniably talented musician who has composed, you know, a number of really, really good songs. And you watch a live performance like this, and you know that she composed these songs in most, if not all, of the parts, and you know, is able to, you know, discern, you know, even if she didn't, you know, compose a particular guitar part or whatever, knows, you know, good from bad. And it's kind of you just know that this is like, oh, this is a good artist. You know, like, I'm glad that this person is being recognized for this ability, as opposed to just kind of like, whatever, famous because they paid the right amount of money or look a certain way or whatever. She's definitely a good example of a great artist.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what's released today feels like it's kind of like art by committee, you know, and like this definitely feels like they couldn't contain her vision. Like, she just is what she is. You know what I mean? Like,
and I think that's what most people like. You know, I mean, they like both. Obviously, I mean, that's why pop music exists, and you can have a committee make it, and lots of people like it. I think she's sort of this. She's a great example of an undeniably great artist that is what most people would identify as, you know, let's say a better time in music. I know everyone always says that, and who knows if it's actually true, but I think she's definitely like a mile marker for, you know, someone going, you know, okay, well, when was a better time? Oh, Fiona Apple, you know, her stuff, that was great. Because I think she's just you can't ignore the quality of the songs. So
definitely. And I'll just close by saying that you know, I think that she definitely she seemed to have dated a lot of shitty men, you know, and had like a lot of like really rough relationships. And now she's much more private about her personal life, which I think is good. But she does seem like much more stable, you know, like when she posts videos, it's like of her hanging out with her dogs. And I do think that she like has a long-term boyfriend who isn't like, you know, a weird magician or something, you know what I mean? So I just really...
In her case, you're saying that literally.
Yeah, like she dated David Blaine and like like a bunch of actors and things, and they, you know, not to like cast aspersions on any of them, I don't know any of them, but it just seems like she always like really came out the worse for the wear, and like felt really misunderstood, you know. And also she like used to talk about how she always thought that she would like die at a young age, and she is one of those people that has that feeling of like somebody that could kind of like be one of those like I burned bright and I burned out fast kind of artists, you know. And so for me, I feel like she has hopefully kind of gotten beyond that danger stage and like found a little bit of stability and been able to distance herself enough to like keep enough of herself for her own sanity, you know. And I just wish her the best, you know. I really really love her, and I think she's kind of like a national treasure, you know. So I really hope that she continues to find a way for herself and continues to speak the truth in art.
I'm also really glad that she found success in what she's doing, because without that, being named Fiona would be probably tricky, you know? So now it's like, oh, Fiona, you mean like Fiona Apple? Oh yeah, that's great, cool, you know? So like, I think she like all the Fionas owe a debt to her as well, so I think that's
what's like the other famous Fiona is like Shrek's girlfriend or whatever.
I don't know about that.
She's the only good Fiona that I can think of. So.
Yeah, so she's really, you know, doing good
She's
on
holding
music
it down
and
for all of the
use- and
Fionas.
names. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if any Fionas out there are listening, you should send her a bouquet of roses and a nice email.
Yeah. She seems like a really tortured soul, but a really beautiful one. So
Yeah,
we love her. The end.
Yeah. very much. Yeah.
Well, thanks for hanging out with me. And
Thank you.
this was amusing ourselves to Fiona Apple.
There was.
Do you have a sign off?
This has been the Lex Friedman podcast. That's what I came up with.
Lex is gonna like sue us.
That'll be very beautiful and loving.
I just want to put more love into the world.
Yeah. It's, yeah.
Well, thanks for hanging out with me. You're my favorite person to hang out with and to talk about music with and to talk about anything with. So,
Same.
yeah.
Until next time.
Good night
Bye-bye.
and good luck.
Good morning.